Hello and welcome back to Pentor Cars, Cornish car collectors. Now, I'm a sucker for a cheap car, particularly when it's an early and high specification Ford Focus Mk1, and I picked this one up for under £200. Okay, so it's wearing its age and its miles with a few dents and the odd bit of corrosion here and there, and well, this wing mirror appears to be constructed entirely of duct tape. But for the purpose of this video, we're going to call all of that this car's patina. The thing is, the Ford Focus Mk1 is an excellent car and a classic car now in its own right. Back in the late 90s, it set the bar for the compact family car and remains the family hatchback to beat even today. So join us as we take a look around our Ford Focus Mk1 and learn a bit of history about this model. Now, we'd love to hear from you, so please do leave us a comment and do click like. And if you haven't already, do subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon. It really means a lot. We're only a couple of years away from the Mk1 Ford Focus being 25 years old. I can't quite believe it. This radical new design was such a leap forward from the Mark V and the Mark VI Escort that it replaced. Albeit, I have to say, I've got quite a soft spot for the Mark V Escort and actually own a low mileage XR3i that I'm sure will feature on a future video. Focus was the fourth car to be launched by Ford as part of its New Edge design range. New Edge is the name given to the range of cars produced by Ford between the late 90s and the early 2000s, and they're quite distinctive in design. You can identify them through quite sharp lines and creases in the bodywork, as well as components that are quite angular, such as headlights, grills and body panels. This was a bold move for Ford, who had previously struggled when pushing the boundaries of design when they launched the Mk1 Ford Sierra. We've actually featured the Mk1 Ford Sierra on an earlier video on the channel, so please do take a look. Whilst the concept Ford GT90 was the first car designed under the New Edge banner, here in the UK, the Ford Ka was the first production New Edge car, and that arrived in 1996, and it was followed by a revised Mondeo. Then in 97 came the excellent Ford Puma, and in 98 the Ford Focus Mk1 and the Ford Kuga. And recognition came in 99 as the Ford Focus Mk1 won Car of the Year both here in Europe and in North America. And more recently, Autocar have voted the Mk1 Focus the best family car ever. Now, the New Edge theme continued, and at the end of 99 the Ford Fiesta received a facelift, and in 2000 came the Mark III Mondeo. But in 2006, New Edge made way for kinetic design, which was the next range of Ford cars. And that gave us the C-Max, it gave us the S-Max, and a revision of all the incumbent Ford model range of the time. With New Edge came lots of new thinking, innovation, and Ford really raised the bar when it came to design and quality of build. And a great example on this Ford Focus is the bonnet release mechanism, which is actually operated by the key behind this flip front badge. Really smart thinking and just shows the quality of the car, but it's a bugger when it goes wrong. Just like the Mondeo that had gone before and had been released in 93, the Focus was intended as a world car and would go on to be sold right across the globe, available from launch in 98 as a 5 or 3-door hatchback, as a saloon or as an estate. It was an instant hit, and you can understand why when you compare it to the very staid competition of the time. Cars like the Mark IV Astra as an example. The Focus knocked spots off every single one of them in every department. In looks, well, except for the saloon, in drivability, in performance and in equipment levels. And the handling of this car received universal praise, largely thanks to the multi-link, fully independent rear suspension. And the Focus got the new Z-Tech engine range produced by Ford that were actually co-produced and developed alongside Yamaha. And they quickly earned a reputation for being revvy, responsive and very durable engines. But it wasn't until 2002 until Ford delivered a high-performance version of the Ford Focus, fitting nicely into the gap left by the short-lived racing Puma, and produced alongside the Mondeo ST220 came the Ford Focus ST170. Now, we've had a few of these and they're very decent cars, quite subtle in appearance when you compare them to other hot hatches, with the most noticeable difference from the standard car being the 17-inch 15-spoke alloy wheels. Performance-wise, the ST170 was fitted with the 2-litre petrol engine that was upgraded to 171 brake horsepower, and the car was also fitted with a 6-speed gearbox. This was sufficient to get the ST170 up to 60 in under 8 seconds, which is decent, but actually the car was largely overshadowed by other hot hatches of the time. However, also in 2002 came the highest performance Ford Focus Mk1, the RS. This was a very different car. Over 70% of the components were unique, revised or upgraded from the standard Ford Focus of the time. Now, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you'll know that we own a Ford Focus Mk1 RS, and we featured it in quite some detail on an earlier video on the channel. So if you'd like to, please watch that video. You'll learn loads about that awesome car. Back in 2000, before the launch of the ST170 and the RS, buyers who wanted the highest performing, most luxurious Ford Focus opted for this, the 2-litre 130 brake horsepower Ghia, and it's a great car. Now, the Zetec options at the time included petrol engines of a 1.4 with 75 brake horsepower, a 1.6 with 100, a 1.8 115 brake horsepower, and this 2-litre 130 brake horsepower engine. Ford also produced a 1.8 diesel that came in 90, 100 and 115 brake horsepower forms. But it was the 1.6 and the 1.8 petrols that proved most popular with the buying public of the time. Now, the Ford Focus came in a number of trim levels, the first being the CL, then the LX, then the Zetec, and then the Ghia. And it was the Zetec that was the sporty option ahead of the ST170, and the Ghia being the most luxurious. And the Ghia predates Ford's titanium premium trim level that was launched under the Mark II Ford Focus. Our metallic Panther Black Ghia has the original 15-inch alloy wheels, chrome trim around the grille and boot lid grab handle, and front fog lamps. But it's here inside the car where the luxury trim is truly evident. And the new edge design continued into the interior of the car with more crisp lines and sweeping angles. This was so different from any Ford that had gone before, and outside of the Ka and the Puma, I'm not sure that Ford have ever really recreated this since. Now, the original buyer of this car back in 2000 really hit the options list when they bought this one. In addition to the wood trimmed door cards and dash with the Ghia badge, electric windows and mirrors, electric height adjustment and lumbar support, air conditioning, remote stereo controls, heated front and rear screens, traction control, and this handy boot release. Our car also has this very smart grey leather interior, a 6-disc CD multi-changer, cruise control, and this trip computer in place of the trinket tray. Now, a feature that I really like on Fords of this era is on the stereo, and it's the pop-off security section of the stereo. Back in the 90s, we were all used to pop front stereos, where you used to take the front of your stereo off and take it with you every time you locked and left your car, albeit in truth, most of us just took the front of the stereo off and threw it in the glove compartment. Anyway, what Ford did was they approached things a little bit differently, as they did with all new edge design. And instead of popping the entire front of the stereo, what you pop off is just the numbers 2 to 5 on the preset option. Just like that. Now, true to form, Ford, thinking innovatively, what they also gave you was this small clip so that you could fasten this part of your pop-off stereo in your top pocket right next to your biro. Genius. In 2001, the Ford Focus Mk1 underwent a facelift, and there were a series of upgrades that included new headlights with integrated indicators and the option of xenons, a new front bumper, new front grille and new front fog lamps, and there were also some interior changes and some interior options that included satellite navigation. And in 2004, the Mark 1 Ford Focus was replaced by the slightly larger and slightly heavier Mark 2, albeit much of the underpinnings of this great car were carried over to the Mark 2, and that includes the brilliant suspension setup. And still today across the world, families buy the Ford Focus, but this time in Mark 4 form. The Ford Focus has been the transport of choice for countless thousands of families across the world for over 20 years. It's been their drive to school, their drive to work, to the shops, and on holiday. It's all thanks to this genius car. We really hope that you've enjoyed our feature on the Mark 1 Ford Focus. If you like what you've seen, please do tune in and watch the video on our RS. There's loads more information about the car there. If you haven't already, please do subscribe and do leave us a comment. It means a lot. But we're going to take this old and very well used and loved Ford Focus Ghia for a quick drive. Thanks so much again for joining us, and we hope to see you again. But from Pentor Cars, Cornish car collectors, it's bye for now. Bye-bye.